Ladies and gentlemen, it is a fundamental aspect of human nature that we often overlook the true value of something until we no longer have it. This applies to relationships, opportunities, and even the simplest things in life. When something or someone is constantly present, we become accustomed to their presence, and over time we may start taking them for granted. It is only when that presence is removed that we begin to understand its true importance. The absence creates a void, and suddenly what once seemed ordinary becomes extraordinary in hindsight. Think about the relationships in your life. How often do people realize the worth of a friend, partner, or family member only after they have distanced themselves? When someone is always there, offering love, support, and kindness, it becomes easy to assume that their presence is a given. But the moment they step away, there is an undeniable shift. The late-night conversations, the comforting words, and the unwavering support that once felt so normal suddenly become painfully missed. This is when regret sets in. The realization that what was once overlooked was in fact irreplaceable. This pattern extends beyond relationships and into opportunities. Many people fail to appreciate a great job, a secure home, or even good health until they experience a loss. A job may feel monotonous or stressful, but once it's taken away, the security it provided becomes evident. Health is often neglected until illness strikes, making one realize how much they took simple things like energy and mobility for granted. Life teaches us the hard way that the things we fail to cherish today may become the very things we long for tomorrow. A powerful example of this can be seen in friendships. A person who has always been there, checking in and offering their support, may one day grow tired of being taken for granted. They may withdraw, either out of exhaustion or the need to protect their own well-being. Only then does the other person begin to feel their absence, wondering why they never truly valued the friendship while it was intact. Suddenly the messages that were once ignored become the ones that are desperately missed. The time spent together, which seems so routine, now feels like a precious memory. The same concept applies to love. Many people only recognize the depth of someone's affection after that person walks away. When love is readily available, some fail to acknowledge its significance, believing it will always be there. However, love that is unappreciated often fades, leaving behind a sense of longing and remorse. Those who once took a partner's kindness and patience for granted often find themselves looking back, wishing they had cherished what they had before it slipped away. Even in everyday life, this pattern repeats itself. We fail to appreciate the warmth of the sun until winter comes, the presence of a loved one until they are miles away, or the freedom of youth until responsibilities weigh heavy on our shoulders. The human mind has a way of romanticizing the past, making us yearn for things we once disregarded. It is a cycle of appreciation coming too late, leaving many with feelings of loss and regret. The truth is, we often assume that what we have today will always be there tomorrow, but life is unpredictable and nothing is guaranteed. People change, circumstances shift, and time moves forward whether we are ready or not. What we ignore today may become the very thing we wish for in the future. This is why it is crucial to pause, reflect, and truly appreciate the people and blessings we have in our lives before it is too late. Perhaps the most painful lesson of all is that by the time we realize the importance of something or someone, it is often beyond our reach. The friendships we neglected may no longer be salvageable. The love we took for granted may have moved on, and the opportunities we dismissed may have been taken by someone else. This is why learning to value what we have, while it is still within our grasp, is essential. If we wait until it is gone, all we are left with is longing and regret. One of the most powerful ways people recognize someone's worth is through their absence. When someone has always been present, offering love, support, and companionship, their presence can feel ordinary, even expected. But when they are no longer there, a void is left behind, and the reality of their importance becomes impossible to ignore. This is when people begin to feel the impact of what they once had but failed to fully appreciate. The absence acts as a mirror, reflecting the ways in which that person contributed to their life in ways they never noticed before. Think about a friend who is always checking in, making plans, or offering a listening ear. When they suddenly stop reaching out, their absence creates a noticeable emptiness. The calls that used to come regularly no longer light up the phone screen. The comforting presence that once provided stability disappears, and suddenly the effort they put into the relationship becomes painfully clear. At that moment, the realization dawns. What once felt like a small, routine part of life was actually a crucial source of support and happiness. This void is even more profound in family relationships. Many people take the presence of parents, siblings, or close relatives for granted. They assume that their unconditional love and support will always be available. However, when life separates them, whether through distance, loss, or emotional disconnection, the weight of their absence becomes overwhelming. A mother's comforting words, a father's quiet sacrifices, or a sibling's companionship may go unnoticed until they are no longer part of daily life. That is when regret settles in, making people wish they had cherished those moments while they still had the chance. In romantic relationships, absence has the power to highlight how deeply someone was embedded in another's life. A partner's presence can become so familiar that their efforts and love start to feel like a given. But when they walk away, whether due to neglect, unappreciation, or the need for self-respect, the one left behind often experiences a painful awakening. The daily messages, the small acts of kindness, and the emotional security they provided suddenly feel like a gaping hole in their life. It is in this emptiness that people often realize how much their partner meant to them. But by then, it may be too late to repair the damage. Even in professional settings, absence can create a void that makes others recognize someone's true value. A hard-working employee who is consistently reliable may go unnoticed because their contributions are expected. But when they leave a job, their absence often reveals just how much they kept things running smoothly. Tasks that once seemed easy suddenly feel overwhelming, and the people left behind struggle to fill the gap. It is only then that their dedication and effort are fully understood, proving that consistency and reliability should never be taken for granted. Absence is also felt deeply in friendships. A person who has always been there, helping, supporting, and celebrating others, may grow weary of being unappreciated and decide to step away. When they are no longer around to offer their time, advice, or kindness, the void they leave behind can be shocking. The friend who was once overlooked suddenly becomes the one whose presence is most missed. The unfortunate truth is that people often realize the value of a true friend only when they are no longer by their side. Another aspect of absence creating a void is the emotional impact it has on daily life. People may not notice how much someone influences their mood, their motivation, or their sense of stability until that person is gone. A once lively and warm environment may begin to feel empty, even lonely. The laughter, conversations, and shared experiences that once filled the space now become memories, This void is a powerful reminder that the presence of certain people is not just comforting, it is essential. Ultimately, absence serves as a painful yet necessary teacher. It forces people to confront the reality of what they once had and how they may have taken it for granted. The void left behind becomes a space filled with reflection, longing, and often regret. It is through this absence that people finally understand the depth of someone's importance, even though they may not have acknowledged it when they were still there. Human nature often leads us to overlook the people and things that are always within reach. When someone is constantly present, offering love, support, and companionship, their presence becomes familiar, even expected. It is only when they withdraw, when they are no longer accessible, that their true value becomes evident. The sudden absence serves as a wake-up call, forcing people to reflect on what they once had but never fully appreciated. Availability breeds familiarity, and familiarity, unfortunately, can lead to complacency. Consider a friend who is always there for you. They listen to your problems, celebrate your victories, and offer a shoulder to lean on during tough times. Because they are always available, it may not seem like anything extraordinary. You may not even think twice before reaching out to them because their presence has become a natural part of your life. But if one day they stop responding, stop checking in, and stop making an effort, their absence creates a gap that feels impossible to fill. Only then does their true value become clear. The support, understanding, and comfort they provided were never guaranteed, yet they were given freely. This same realization applies in romantic relationships. A partner who consistently shows love and patience can sometimes be taken for granted because their affection seems endless. The small acts of kindness, a thoughtful message, a reassuring hug, a willingness to listen may go unnoticed because they happen so regularly. But when that person decides they can no longer keep giving without receiving the same energy in return, their absence speaks louder than their presence ever did. It is only when they are gone that their true worth is recognized, and by then it is often too late. Even in families, the value of a loved one is sometimes only understood after they are no longer around. Parents, for example, dedicate their lives to providing for their children, offering guidance, support, and unconditional love. As children grow, they may assume that their parents' sacrifices and presence are simply part of life, something that will always be there. However, when distance, loss, or time separates them, the depth of what was given becomes painfully clear. The warm meals, the protective words, and the quiet sacrifices that once felt routine suddenly become memories that hold immense value. Work and professional relationships also follow this pattern. An employee who is always reliable and hardworking may not be fully appreciated because their efforts blend into the daily routine. They meet deadlines, solve problems, and keep things running smoothly without complaint. But the moment they resign or take time off, the absence of their contributions becomes glaringly obvious. Tasks pile up, problems arise that they used to handle effortlessly, and their once overlooked reliability is suddenly recognized as a crucial asset. Only in their absence do others realize just how much they contributed. Friendships too reveal their true importance when one person becomes unavailable. A friend who consistently reaches out, checks in, and puts effort into maintaining the relationship may not always receive the same energy in return. As long as they are present, their efforts might be expected rather than appreciated. But when they stop trying, when they stop calling, texting, or making plans, the void they leave behind is undeniable. The silence they leave in their place serves as a painful reminder of their worth. This idea extends beyond people to life's everyday conveniences and privileges. Good health, financial stability, and even freedom are often overlooked until they are compromised. Someone may take their physical well-being for granted until illness strikes, making them long for the energy they once had. A person may complain about their job until they lose it, suddenly realizing how much security. These things were always valuable, but their worth was fully recognized only when they were no longer available. Ultimately, the absence of something or someone forces people to confront the reality of what they had and how little they may have appreciated it. The painful truth is that availability often leads to underappreciation, and true value is sometimes only seen in hindsight. What was once ignored, dismissed, or taken for granted suddenly becomes the very thing people wish they could have back. Love, care, and support are among the most precious things someone can receive in life, yet they are often the most overlooked. When these things are constantly given, whether by a friend, a partner, or a family member, people tend to assume they will always be there. They become accustomed to the warmth of a kind heart, the presence of someone who listens, and the unwavering support that makes life easier. But when that love is withdrawn, when the care fades, and when the support disappears, a deep realization sets in. The absence becomes a painful reminder of just how much was taken for granted. Many people fail to appreciate love when it is freely given. A person who expresses their love through thoughtful words, consistent actions, and small gestures can sometimes be overlooked because their affection seems constant. It's easy to assume that their love is unshakable, that it will remain despite neglect or indifference. But love that isn't reciprocated, acknowledged, or valued eventually fades. And when it does, those who once took it for granted find themselves longing for the warmth they once had, but never fully cherished. Care is another thing that people often fail to recognize until it's gone. Whether it's a mother ensuring her child is safe and healthy, a friend checking in to see how someone is doing, or a partner making sure their loved one is comfortable and happy, care is an invisible force that holds relationships together. When it is given consistently, it can start to feel like a normal part of life rather than the act of love that it truly is. But the moment that care is no longer present, when no one asks how the day went or offers a helping hand, the void it leaves behind is undeniable. Support is perhaps the most undervalued gift of all. Having someone who stands by your side, who believes in you, who encourages you during difficult times. This is a kind of strength that is easy to overlook when it's always there. People often assume that their biggest supporters will always cheer them on, that their shoulders to lean on will always be available. But support is not infinite. It requires effort, energy, and appreciation. When someone who once provided unwavering encouragement decides to walk away, the silence can be deafening. The loss of that steady presence reveals just how crucial their support truly was. Romantic relationships are a perfect example of how love, care, and support can be taken for granted. A partner who always listens, always forgives, and always puts in the effort can become an unnoticed blessing. It's only when they grow tired, when they stop trying, and when they finally leave that the reality sinks in. The thoughtful texts that once seemed routine, the comfort of knowing someone was always there, suddenly these things become memories instead of daily realities. And for the one who failed to appreciate them, regret becomes a painful companion. Friendships also suffer from this lack of appreciation. A friend who is always available, always understanding, and always willing to help can be unknowingly undervalued. When they are taken for granted for too long, they may decide to pull back. And when they do, their absence is felt in every unreturned call, in every lonely moment when there is no one to confide in. That's when people realize that having a friend who truly cares is not something to be expected, it is something to be cherished. Family members, particularly parents, often experience this painful truth. A mother who always cooks a meal, a father who works tirelessly to provide, a sibling who offers constant support. These acts of love can become so routine that they lose their visibility. But when the family structure shifts, when distance, time, or loss removes those figures from everyday life, the weight of their contributions becomes undeniable. The warmth of home, the security of knowing someone was always there, suddenly becomes something to long for rather than something to rely on. In every aspect of life, love, care, and support are the foundation of meaningful relationships. But because they are often given freely, people don't always recognize their worth until they are gone. The lesson, unfortunately, comes too late for many, when the love that once surrounded them has disappeared, when the care that made life easier is no longer there, and when the support that held them up is now just a memory. Only then do they realize that what they once ignored was in reality the most valuable thing they ever had. Life has a way of teaching us lessons in the harshest ways possible. One of the most painful realizations people experience is understanding someone's value only after they have left. The truth is, we tend to overlook what is constantly available to us, assuming that it will always be there. Whether it is a devoted friend, a loving partner, or a supportive family member, their presence becomes so familiar that it fades into the background of daily life. But when they finally walk away, tired of being unappreciated, the void they leave behind is unavoidable. Unfortunately, by the time most people recognize their mistake, the damage has already been done. When people realize what they have lost, regret begins to take hold. They start replaying past interactions in their minds, searching for moments when they could have done better, when they should have listened more, expressed gratitude, or simply been more present. They remember the times they dismissed someone's feelings, the times they took kindness for granted, and the moments when they could have chosen appreciation over indifference. But reflection does not undo the past. Words left unsaid, love left unreciprocated, and care left unnoticed all pile up into a heavy burden of regret. By the time this realization comes, the person they once overlooked has often already moved on. When someone repeatedly feels undervalued, they eventually reach a breaking point. They stop reaching out, stop making an effort, and stop allowing themselves to be taken for granted. They may have spent years waiting for appreciation that never came, only to finally understand that their worth is not defined by someone else's recognition. And when they walk away, they do not look back. This is where regret becomes unbearable for the person who failed to see their value when it mattered most. Many people make the mistake of assuming that just because someone loves them, they will always stay. They take kindness as a guarantee rather than a choice. They assume patience has no limit and that forgiveness is endless. But love, care, and support are not obligations, they are gifts. And when these gifts are continuously disregarded, the giver eventually decides to stop offering them. By the time the recipient understands what they have lost, it is often too late to fix the damage that has been done. This painful lesson is evident in relationships where one person gives far more than they receive. A partner may continue to love deeply despite feeling unappreciated, hoping that one day their efforts will be recognized. But over time, their emotional exhaustion builds. The affection they once gave freely starts to fade. Their patience wears thin, and they finally decide to leave. When they do, the person who once took them for granted is left shocked, confused as to why someone who always stayed has suddenly disappeared. Only then do they realize how much they truly mattered. But by then, the love they once depended on is no longer available. Friendships suffer the same fate. A friend who always supports, listens, and makes an effort may tolerate being taken for granted for a long time. They may brush off being ignored, forgive being overlooked, and continue giving without expecting much in return. But no one can pour from an empty cup forever. When they finally stop trying, the silence they leave behind is deafening. The person who once assumed they would always be there suddenly finds themselves alone, missing the friendship they never thought they could lose. Family relationships are another painful example of this late realization. Children may not appreciate the sacrifices their parents make, assuming that love and care are simply part of the parental role. They may fail to express gratitude for the endless support, guidance, and protection they receive. But when they grow older, when they face life's hardships alone, or when their parents are no longer around, they finally understand just how much was done for them. Unfortunately, some people only learn to value their loved ones through loss. When apologies and appreciation come too late, perhaps the saddest part of this realization is that it could have been avoided. It does not take much to appreciate someone while they are still present. A simple thank you, a moment of acknowledgement, or an effort to give back in return can make all the difference. But too many people assume they have unlimited time to show their appreciation until they don't. And when the damage is done, when someone has finally had enough, there is no going back. The painful truth remains. People often don't realize what they had until it's gone, and by then all they are left with is regret. When someone who was once a significant part of your life is no longer there, all that remains are the memories. The conversations, the laughter, the little moments that once seem ordinary suddenly take on a new weight. What was once a casual interaction, a simple text message, or a shared joke now becomes a treasured recollection. People who once took someone's presence for granted often find themselves clinging to memories, replaying them in their minds as a way to feel close to what they lost. But memories, no matter how vivid, can never replace the real presence of a person. As time passes, the mind begins to filter through the past, highlighting the best moments, the arguments, the misunderstandings, and the times of neglect often fade into the background, leaving only the warmth of the good times. This selective memory makes the loss feel even more painful, as the person left behind begins to see just how much happiness they once had but failed to appreciate. The realization that they once had something special, something they did not fully cherish, becomes a source of deep regret. For some, memories become both a source of comfort and pain. Looking at old photos, reading past messages, or hearing a song that reminds them of the person they lost can bring a bittersweet feeling. At first, these memories provide solace, a way to hold on to a connection that is no longer physically present. But over time, they can turn into a painful reminder of what can never be relived. What was once a source of joy now becomes a symbol of absence, making the loss feel even more profound. This emotional attachment to memories is most evident in romantic relationships. When a partner walks away, the one left behind often finds themselves reliving moments of love and affection, trying to understand where things went wrong. They recall the way their partner laughed, the way they cared, and the way they made them feel. These memories, once part of daily life, now exist only in their mind. They may reach for their phone wanting to send a message only to remember that the person they once talked to every day is no longer there to respond. Friendships too leave behind a trail of memories. A friend who was always there, who shared experiences, secrets, and countless moments of joy becomes a lingering presence in the mind of the one who took them for granted. They may remember the late-night talks, the inside jokes, or the support they received during tough times. And as they scroll through old conversations or see reminders of past outings, they realize that the bond they once shared has now become nothing more than a collection of distant memories. Family bonds, perhaps more than any other, create the deepest emotional memories. Parents, grandparents, or siblings who were once taken for granted often leave behind a lifetime of moments that only gain value after they are gone. The warmth of a mother's hug, the reassuring words of a father, or the laughter of a sibling become cherished echoes of the past. People who once assumed these moments would always be there find themselves longing for just one more chance to relive them, to say the things they never said, to show the appreciation they once withheld. The hardest part about living with memories is the inability to create new ones. When someone is still present, there is always a possibility of making things right, of spending more time together, of showing love and appreciation, but once they are gone, that door closes forever. No amount of regret, longing, or reflection can change the past. People who once had endless opportunities to appreciate someone now find themselves holding on to fragments of what once was, wishing they had done things differently. And so memories become both a blessing and a curse. They offer a glimpse into the love, care, and support that was once available, but also serve as a painful reminder of what has been lost. They are all that remain when the person is no longer there. And for those who fail to cherish what they had, they become the only connection to a past that can never be reclaimed. Regret is one of the most powerful and persistent emotions a person can experience. When someone realizes that they lost a valuable relationship due to their own neglect, indifference, or lack of appreciation, the weight of regret becomes unbearable. It is a feeling that lingers, creeping into moments of reflection, resurfacing in unexpected situations, and haunting a person long after the damage has been done. Regret is not just about missing someone, it is about knowing that things could have been different if only they had acted sooner. One of the most painful aspects of regret is the knowledge that opportunities were wasted. There were moments when a simple thank you or a kind word could have made a difference. There were chances to show love, to reciprocate care, or to express gratitude, but those chances were ignored. The person left behind begins to replay these moments in their mind, wondering what would have happened if they had just appreciated what they had when they had it. This realization is crushing because no amount of wishing can bring those moments back. Regret also manifests in the form of unspoken words. People often assume they have unlimited time to express their feelings, to apologize, or to make amends. They postpone heartfelt conversations, assuming there will always be another day. But when someone leaves, whether by choice, distance, or even death, those unspoken words turn into a heavy burden. The things they should have said but didn't now echo in their minds, reminding them of the love, appreciation, or apology that was never shared. In many cases, Regret extends beyond words to actions. People who took others for granted realize too late that they should have made more effort. They recall the invitations they ignored, the messages they never responded to, the special occasions they failed to acknowledge. They regret not prioritizing the person who once prioritized them. The guilt of knowing they had the power to make someone feel valued but chose not to is a painful reminder of their mistakes. Regret is not just about losing someone. It is about recognizing their value too late. When a person is present, their efforts and presence can seem ordinary. But when they are gone, every little thing they did becomes significant. The way they laughed, the way they cared, the way they made life easier. These once overlooked details become the very things that the regretful person longs for the most. They wish they could turn back time just to experience those moments again with newfound appreciation. Regret also comes with a sense of helplessness. Unlike other emotions that can be resolved through action, regret is often irreversible. It is not like sadness, which can be comforted, or anger, which can be resolved through conversation. Regret lingers because it is tied to the past, and no amount of desire or effort can change what has already happened. The person experiencing regret must live with the knowledge that they had something special but failed to appreciate it when it mattered. This emotional weight can also lead to self-blame. Many people who regret losing someone start to question their own behavior, wondering why they didn't realize the person's value sooner. They ask themselves how they could have been so blind, so careless, so indifferent. They may even start to feel undeserving of love, fearing that they will repeat the same mistakes in the future. The longer the regret lingers, the more it affects their self-perception and emotional well-being. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of regret is that it does not fade easily. While time can heal wounds, regret has a way of staying in the background, resurfacing at unexpected moments. A familiar song, a certain place, or even a random memory can bring back the pain of knowing that things could have been different. And no matter how much time passes, the question remains the same: what if I had appreciated them when I had the chance?